Hello, dear friend. Hello, how are you doing? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are. hmm
Oh, we don't have an ad. That's good.
We don't have what?
Ads. Ads.
Okay,
Advertisements.
okay.
Because we were having an ad at the beginning.
Uh-huh.
No, we don't.
Okay, good. Hello, dear friends. Where are you?
But we should. I really do like those glasses.
Which glasses? These?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like them too. Okay, so let's see what you're doing.
11.
What are you
They're
up?
here.
Okay, I see you. Hi, Tooth Fairy. How are you doing? Is the weather changing there? It's a little bit cooler here, but a little bit. Not much. Let's call it less hot.
Yep.
So,
Less mosquitoes too. I'm so happy. Oh my gosh.
Jean Elman,
Hi. Central Massachusetts.
okay. How are you doing? Hi, Marilyn. Good morning. How are you doing? Good afternoon, depending on where you are. So, how are you doing? So, hi, Christine. So, we are going to be talking about. It just drives me crazy.
Yes.
So, what happens is that here we are posting something online, like, for example, um, gloves or uh, a scarf or a hat or whatever. And this lady says, how many stitches for a child? Like, okay. You had summer weather this weekend? Okay. So, what do I say? What do I say to a question like that? Like, how many stitches for a child? And so they were gloves.
I mean, we understand what she means. You know, once you're in the video and you see which video she was talking about. But
Yeah, but like, for example, she was talking about simple gloves, the basic gloves. I understand that she wants to know how many stitches for a child. So I guess what I said is, half. So, if it's 60, put 30. But, it's in other things, people ask me if it's a sweater. People say, how many stitches for a 5-year-old? So, okay, so I have to do the whole explanation. Please, people, don't ask me how many stitches for a 7-year-old. Please. What I will teach you to do.
I mean, tell them why. Tell them why. Like, she's not angry. She's
No.
just like, there's so many factors to consider. It's like,
yeah.
almost like asking, how many bricks for a house?
It is true. So there is the fact that which yarn are you using? Is it the same? Are you using the same needles? Obviously, we don't knit the same, so you knit tighter or the same or softer. And what size do you want it?
Yeah,
And
what size is your child? Maybe
yeah.
it's a small child, a big child, you know?
Yeah. So we have a sweater for a child somewhere because we made one for Nicholas. I made one for him. So let's say that I have a sweater for a 4-year-old and we want to know what size for a 12-year-old. So please measure your child, measure the biggest part of his body. Usually it's the tummy part because children have that part of their body the same as me. Like right here, the tummy. So measure the biggest part and make a swatch. So once you have the swatch,
Let me bring one.
okay,
You can show yours in the meantime.
okay. Once you have your swatch, you measure it. For example, I have a swatch here. I don't know if you can see it clearly. So I have straight stitch here and I have ribbing up here. Obviously, they are going to give me different gauge. So the bottom part, let's say, okay, the bottom part, 20 stitches, give me 4 inches. So how many stitches do I need for 20 inches? So these are the 3 things that I know. I know that 20 stitches give me 4 inches. And I know I want 20 inches. That's all I know. So what you're going to do is that you're going to multiply the 2 crossed given numbers. 20 times 20. This doesn't have a cross number. So this is by itself. So you're going to multiply the 2 crossed given numbers, which is 20 by 20, and it's going to give you 400. Now 400 you're going to divide by the lonely number, which is 4. So 400 divided by 4 is 100. You need 100 stitches. So I have here the ribbing one right up here. And you measure how many stitches you have by whatever measurement you have. So I know that 20 stitches, because that's what I have in my needle, give me 3 inches. So how many stitches do I need for 20 inches? So I'm going to multiply the 2 crossed given numbers, and which is 20 times 20 is 400. And I am going to divide by the leftover number, which is 3. So I am going to have 133 stitches in order to have 20 inches. Now, for example, if your project, if your stitch says that it has to be an even number, of course, you either do 122, 132, or 134. If it's a multiple of 6, figure out the closest number multiple of 6 closest to 133. So it is not it's not that difficult. It is be the closest to 133 depending on the repetition. So depending on the multiples of the stitch. So if the stitches needs to be a multiple of 4, go to the closest number of of 133. So usually I put my stitches very flat as I can. Sometimes I wet them and let them sit somewhere flat so that the edges don't curl or anything like that. So for example, I have this stitch which is very pretty. It's the latest stitch that we have online. And this has 22 stitches. So 22 stitches gave me 4 inches. So there we have it. If I know that 22 inches, 22 stitches give me 4 inches, how many stitches do I need for whatever amount that you need? So do your this is something that I learned in like in elementary school in 3rd grade. See, it's a tabla it's called the 3 given numbers. So you have 1, 2, 3, which is the 4th. Easy, easy, easy. Basic math. So let's do. You gave me these. Thank you. Sienna made. Try not to make swatches that are so small because then it will not be as accurate. Maybe you can make a tiny swatch like this in order to see what needles you want to use. Because if you want an open stitch like this, you use needles that are bigger, so it looks bigger. So if you use the needles that the yarn calls for, it's going to be different than if you use larger needles. So try to make a bigger swatch so that you can measure better. Hannah has another one here. This is the seat stitch.
Because I'm replicating the sweater. I'm replicating the sweater that I love. My mom has like this 3/4 sleeve black bolero kind of.
Oh yes, I have a bolero.
She suggested that the edge needed to be seed and the rest needed to be like we wanted it very open knit. And so I made swatches because it's completely different than the actual piece.
Yes.
So I did 2 swatches, and that's why the stitches were off too, because seed stitch is very different than regular jersey. So.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. You knit 1 per 1, knit 1 per 1, and you use an odd number of stitches in order to start with a knit stitch on every row. So you start with a knit and end with a knit, and you do that on every row. So, what tooth fairy? Using 24-hour clock? Huh?
No. You still think the same.
Do you still think the same when you make a beginning of a what? A beginning of a noun, for example, knit to purl to. Okay. If you knit to purl to, it's ribbing, and it's going to be tighter than the actual stitch. So, if your sweater, if you want to start your sweater with knit to purl to like this, you have to make sure that that's what you want it to look like in comparison with the rest of the sweater. So the bottom is going to be tighter. If you do not want the bottom to be tighter, you might want to block it once it's done so that the bottom is open like so. Or use a seat stitch When you use a seat stitch, it will not curl on the sides or the bottom. And that is the reason why I like to use the seat stitch at the bottom of a sweater or a blouse or a shawl or anything else like that. You can use a garter stitch, but I don't think it's as pretty. I don't think it's as pretty as seat stitch. So on the sides of a scarf or um, anything like a cowl or whatever, I use seat stitch rather than garter. It just looks nicer. So want to make a swatch bigger than 4 inches by 4 inches or 10 by 10 centimeters. Usually make an 6 inch, yes, because like that you have the middle and you don't go too much into the edges. So yes,
She measures to the 4 inches in the middle.
yes. So like that, if you have instead of 20 stitches, if you make your swatch with 30 or 40 stitches, then this part will be flatter. Or, okay, I will give you an example. I have here something that is done with garter stitch. And of course, I have a bigger swatch. So I can measure my 4 inches from one side to the other. And like that, I can count my stitches and see that I have 22 stitches for two. My cat is coming. Okay, you need to get out of the way. My cat likes to come and sit on my desk and look outside my window and talk to the birds. She's very funny. She goes, funny, funny. So I have a bigger swatch, which is nice because it makes me measure better the amount of stitches from one side to the other. And for example, I have here this shawl. I don't know if you remember. This is so pretty. Okay, you need to come down from there.
I don't know what's up with her.
Yeah. So here.
Nala.
Sorry, that's my cat. She's everywhere. So here I have a shawl